We're going to talk about Kevin Feige. He's the head of Marvel Studios, and he's commenting on what Spielberg said about. Spielberg thinks that genres and movies are cyclical. Like the Western died out after like 25, 30 years, and now you see Westerns sporadically. He responded to Spielberg. And his response, I also responded to Zack Snyder. We never spoke about Zack Snyder's comments, his sort of dismissal of Ant-Man, which was kind of just, not just unprofessional, kind of just petty.
He's such an infuriating man. So real quick, his comment, we talked about Spielberg's comments. Zack Snyder said that Batman and Superman are transcendent and go beyond the superhero genre, unlike flavor of the week superheroes like Ant-Man.
And he called out Ant-Man specifically, which is kind of weird because Ant-Man's a quality film.
I think it's probably just because it was fresh in his mind.
Which is funny because Ant-Man, I think, probably didn't make that much less money. Did it make more than the last Superman movie? I'm going to check right now while you talk.
I mean, my thing is this: Feige has some valid points, and he comes across very level-headed in this. But his response, sort of to Snyder at least, is that Marvel's superheroes are incredibly broad and diverse. And his response also, and this also tied into what his response to Spielberg, that's what makes them, that gives them a strength in a cinematic universe. While Feige understood or seemed understanding of Spielberg's comparison to Westerns, his retort was that each of the Marvel movies can be seen as a different sort of genre movie. Now, there's always action generally in these, but you look at something like Winter Soldier compared to something like Guardians of the Galaxy, compared to something like Iron Man 3, which is basically a road trip movie, and you suddenly see that they're doing entirely different things. Now, superheroes are at the start of all of these, but they're different types of movies. Yeah. And that's what makes the Marvel Cinematic Universe work, is that it's not all just these straightforward superhero films. They build the universe up by showing different facets of that universe.
Yeah.
And that's why something like I like Batman. I like Superman. But I honestly think Snyder's comment is completely backwards. Batman and Superman do not transcend anything superhero. They embody superheroes to a T.
They're two of the original ones. Superman's the original superhero.
And they're two of the most recognizable.
Yeah.
You cannot tell me that they're transcending anything. They're not.
No, they're not. And if you want to look at box office, they're definitely not. Now, Ant-Man, it's still in theaters, but it's basically done. Ant-Man ended up doing 400, we'll just say, it probably had 1 or 2 more million. Let's just say 410 million worldwide. Man of Steel ended up doing 668. So it did about 50% less. But for a C-lister like Ant-Man doing that well, and that still made Marvel money. And especially when you put into, home video, it doesn't exist anymore, but, DVD sales and on-demand sales and all the licensing, it did well. Man of Steel disappointed. When you look back and look at it, people thought that was going to do a lot better than what it did. There was a lot of hype around that movie. There was a ton of publicity, remember, 2 years ago from that movie.
And there wasn't much for Ant-Man. I mean, and that's another thing to look at. Ant-Man was kind of treated, promoted, and marketed as what it was.
Yeah. A heist film.
And I don't want to, because we've done it plenty and we'll do it more. And this isn't necessarily to be a Snyder bashing. So, I mean, back to Feige's response to Spielberg. Interestingly enough, he brings up the point. He's like, the era of the Western was like 40 years. And he said it would be amazing if we could get something like 40 years out of superheroes. He goes, maybe we'd need to take a break, but we can, because of how different all of these heroes are, we can work them into different roles and hopefully get people out of the mindset that this is a superhero movie and perhaps something like a spy movie or a buddy movie.
Yeah.
But it's just a different type.
Yeah, Captain America Winter Soldier is not a superhero movie when you watch it. There's no one with superpowers. I mean, you want to say Captain America has superpowers? Yeah, but it's not like people are like have laser beams coming out. The best
it's a movie of government distrust.
The 2 best scenes in the movie is a fight scene that was pretty damn well choreographed in the elevator.
That was amazing.
And then the street gun combat was just straight out of Heat. The brothers directing even said, yeah, we took Michael Mann's Heat, and that's how we filmed it, and that was fucking awesome. That was it was a gunfight. Mm-hmm. In your superhero movie, those are your two big fights, not like Hulk slamming buildings. You know what I mean? Like, they were more smaller and intimate for the most part.
And there's room for all that, and there's room for the DC universe too. I guess I am going to go back to Snyder for a minute, but Snyder needs to get his head out of his ass and act like he's doing something completely different than what Marvel is doing. He is not. He is doing what Marvel. He's trying to do what Marvel is doing with a coat of grim and dark.
And that's DC's problem, especially, much to their detriment, how they've treated. The Nolan Batman movies are crime movies, first and foremost.
Yes.
Especially the latter two. The first one's more of a traditional superhero movie, but once you get to Dark Knight and Dark Knight Rises, it's a joke, but it isn't. Batman's barely in the movies.
Right.
He's not in those movies. You're looking at the machinations of Gotham City, and you're looking at these crime lords, and you're looking at Commissioner Gordon. And then you're looking at Bane taking down the city. That's a good chunk of those second and third movies. And seeing the joke, like Batman's like, by the way, it's a Batman movie. Get him in there.
Here I am.
I'm right here.
And I like those Batman movies for anyone who thinks I'm a DC hater. Goddammit! I mean, those were great. Those were fine by me. But I feel like that unfortunately set a tone that DC is going to constantly try to chase,
and they won't be able to. But for the most part, their problem though is that. And this goes back to why I prefer Marvel heroes versus DC. All the big stringer DCs guys, with the exception of Batman, they're all gods. Mm-hmm. Green Lantern, Wonder Woman, even Flash, Superman. These are almost indestructible creatures that are harder to root for. It's harder to write for them, partially because of that, them being gods and above everyone else.
It's hard to write for something you can't kill or hurt.
And not just that, though, they're above everyone else looking down. When the Marvel guys were always down in their luck people, or people that suffered horrifically and then got their powers, or got them in really bad circumstances like Iron Man or Spider-Man. Reluctant heroes are usually what they are in Marvel. When in DC they are the epitome of they're not transcending superheroes, like I said. They are superhero to a T.
Yes.